Good afternoon. Welcome to the Ministry Media Masterclass, which is a masterclass on ministry media positioned as a learning opportunity for pastors and ministries where we can impact the world through you. We are live from the Ministry Media Studio, where our passion is your message to the world. Let's go. I am a media coach for pastors and ministries, helping them get their message to its intended for, build the media channels for that message to get there, and building a community around it. I am passionate about transforming the world through equipping and empowering individuals that are empowered to create ethical, positive, and true media that edifies and builds up society, raises up godly voices, brings restoration to the world. I do this through one-on-one coaching, providing a media coaching platform, facilitating media challenges, and hosting ministry media retreats. My name is Simon Fiyun, and this is my masterclass. Today, we're going to looking at creating a budget for your ministry. If you like what you hear today, want to launch or improve your ministry media platform, learn the latest content creation techniques, build a media team, and increase the impact of your ministry, register for our Ministry Media Challenge. This carefully crafted challenge will provide you with a system, processes, and most of all, accountability structures to help get your ministry media platform launched in as little as 12 weeks. This is a premium challenge where we'll take you from where you are to global influence and impact. In the comments below, let me know what your expectation is of the session today. And while you are watching, will you please go and click the share button and share this with your network so they can also get the awesome content that we are creating in this free masterclass every week. I want to do something different today. I'm going to be a little bit creative. And what I'm going to do, my slides are going to be written out on pieces of paper. And that is how we're going to transition our teachings today. So first up is the introduction. Let's introduce our topic. We are talking today about creating a media budget for your ministry. And what I want to do quickly is give you a scripture just to start with a lay foundation. Now, in Luke 14, verse 12, it says, "Which of you desire to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it?" And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. When I approach media projects, the big question is always, okay, what is it going to cost, and where are we going to find the finances for it? And there's a lot of things that you can be creative with this, and obviously we can do a follow-up after this and saying, okay, now we've got a media budget. Now let's see where can we find the funds for it. So budgeting plays a crucial role in effective ministry management, and there are several reasons for it. We need to be wise in allocating resources in the correct way. You will find media is going to be a portion of your ministry. And so to have a media budget is a very, very wise thing. And I'm just going to pause here and say one thing. Budgeting is not my strongest suit, right? But I have had the privilege of going through a process of having to budget a media department the last year. And so I have a little bit more insight into what is required here and how this operates. And so we're going to look into that. The next thing that you want to look at is aligning your budget with your goals. And again, you can look at it macro and say, okay, in my ministry, what role does media play in getting the message out there? And so allocating a budget toward media is very important. But then you also go and say, okay, of the budget that is available, what exactly can we do with it? What can we align with it? And so often we look at, okay, what's coming in and what can we do with it? And maybe we can reverse engineer that this time and say, okay, these are the specific things that we need to fund, and that's how much it costs at different levels. And so that is the amount that we need. And so let's trust God together for it. Budgeting is also crucial for accountability because the people that are helping us financially in our projects, they want to know that we are shrewd and that we are wise in handling the finances and the budgets that are accountable to it. Obviously, we need to be accountable to these budgets and what has been entrusted to us. And I don't believe I have to go into a teaching on stewardship, but that is going to be very important at the end of the day. Planning and forecasting. Budgets allow ministries to plan for the future. Now, the budget that I've worked with in the last year has actually looked at, okay, what are things costing right now? So you might have rolling costs that you see that is happening. There might be rent, there might be staff or volunteer payments that you have to have. It might be down payments or payments on your equipment. And so those things give you a forecast of what is your budget looking like every month, and also what is the fundraising that's going to be necessary there. It also helps with stewardship and transparency. I've spoken a little bit about stewardship, but if you budget, it shows that you're a good steward of the resources that's been entrusted to you. And what it also does is it enhances transparency, both for internal stakeholders like board members and staff, and external stakeholders like donors, community, tithers, etc., etc. So everybody knows how the funds are being used, and that is important. And it's also important for risk management because ministries might face financial risks at some points, and budgeting helps us to identify and mitigate those risks before they happen. And so let's go into a segment where we want to understand our ministry goals. And this is going to help us steer and steward this process the best we can. So when you are working with your budget or designing a budget, it's important that you know what your ministry goals are. Okay, so this is a big process of reverse engineering. Let's say for your media ministry, your goal, you're an evangelistic ministry, and you know that you want to reach people in a specific geographical area. And so the media process for that is going to be the following. I'm going to have to create content that is going to be valuable and that's going to resonate with the people in that area. I need to get the content in that area. How am I going to do that? So first question of your budget to get to that goal is the content production. Here it's broken up into the people that are involved, the equipment that you need, and the actual execution of the production day. There's a cost involved. Then there's a cost involved in getting the content there. So it's going to be either distributing it via groups, which is a labor-intensive process, and there's probably going to have someone be paid a pittance, an honorarium, or a salary for a social media manager that's going to do that for you. Or you're going to put ads, you're going to put ad spend to getting the content in that area. And obviously there's a strategy behind this. We've done a masterclass on that. Go and look at evangelistic media ministry. There's a class on that, and that will help you with the process and the concept that I'm sharing here. But those are the media elements that's going to need funding and that you need to budget for. Okay, so every goal that you have as a ministry, which has a media component to it, is going to have to be budgeted in this way. So I want to just pause here, and I want to encourage you to identify and list your ministry's primary objectives. Then break those objectives down and go and identify which part of those objectives, which of those objectives have a media element to it. Remember, in this class, I'm only teaching about budgeting for the media. All right, so which one of those have any media elements to it? Okay, anything that has the media department or the media company that you have, whatever, where they are involved. So this could be you have an outreach, right? That is one of your ministry objectives, is doing a outreach every month. So there is going to be what? There's media involved because you have speakers, you have microphones, you have probably a sound desk, there's a team. Have you bought us equipment yet? The team that's going to run that, you're going to have to sustain them during the day. So you're going to have to buy them lunch, going to give them refreshments, and then obviously honoring them for their time. So there's a lot of elements that has media connected to it that you have to budget for it. Okay. So for me, my objectives are do one class, masterclass every week. That's what we're doing here. It's on a Wednesday. The next one is do a class, present a challenge cohort session every Wednesday night. So that is one of my media activities. Then there is an event that we are presenting every Thursday. So that event is also, all of those need to be budgeted for in terms of the time spent, resources allocated, and small things. And listen, what I've learned in this budgeting process and doing quite a large budget in the last year is that everything has to be accounted for. So if you use pens, those things must be accounted for. If you're drinking coffee, those things have to be accounted for. If you are using electricity, those things have to be accounted for. The computer that I'm using has to be accounted for in terms of the upkeep and projecting the cost of sustaining it over time. Every single thing. There's a lot of hidden costs. I have to say this. There's a lot of hidden costs involved in your ministry media process that has to be budgeted for that you're not thinking about. I personally also didn't think of those. So take all of your media your ministry's primary objectives, look at where is media processes involved, and then allocate and budget for that. And how do I budget for that? I have to go look at the hidden costs. I have to look at the salaries that's being paid. I have to look at the ads that need to run. And I need to look at everything that has to be paid from the media budget for that. And so it's very important that you set objectives and goals for your ministries and then tie media activities to that where they apply. And then those elements need to be budgeted for in the minutest details. Like I said, pen, food, sound, electricity, everything has to be allocated for that. And so far, if you have any questions, please post them in the comments below and I will answer them for you. But it's important that the goals and the objectives are crystal clear. And in a budget, like planning for a production day, you cannot have enough detail. You cannot have too much detail. There is not something like that exists. And so let's talk next about identifying media channels. And so here we want to talk, when we talk about media channels, we're talking about the different ways and platforms that we communicate on. Okay, and I'm going to share with you everything that is in the scope of communication, because that is essentially what media is. So I want to explain to you that there are different media channels available for you to communicate your ministry's message. Okay, and these are, let's take an exercise and we say, okay, there's social media, there's my website, there's email marketing, there's print materials, maybe there's audio and video production, and there's events. Those are just 6 elements, and I can probably sit here, and if we do a thorough planning session, we could possibly identify 25 of these different elements. But we're just going to look at these six, okay? So the elements that are involved that requires budgeting on social media is obviously your content, right? That's gonna, if you follow my process, you're gonna have a minimum of 1 day's production that needs to be done. To get that content out, you're gonna have a minimum of 2 weeks worth of post-production that needs to be done, all right? Besides the people that actually do the production and the people that do the post-production, you're also going to have some kind of social media manager. And remember, all of these could be you, right? I always say, don't let anything stop you. Just go and do it. But let's have a vision to grow our media team over time, right? And so it could be paid staff, it could be volunteers, but we got to have a vision for our media ministry to grow. It has to. It cannot stay with you. I'm sitting here right now, and I'm doing 2 promo events I'm doing 3 promo events every week. I'm doing a leadership class on Monday. I'm doing a media class, this masterclass on Wednesday. I'm doing a promo event on Thursday nights with joint venture partners, and I'm doing presenting a cohort on Wednesday nights. And I'm sitting here and I can tell you, I am the only person that's working on this, and I can feel that I'm getting to burnout. So I want to encourage you with the quote that was given to me by one of my clients, one of the ministries that I worked with before. And he said something so profound. He said, just because you can do everything does not mean you have to. So journey with me as we grow together, that we build media ministries that are sustainable, that we can be creative, clear of mind, clear communication, and we can fulfill our potential. And we are not going to do that without building a team. And so how about you and I work together, and we trust God together for us to build our media ministries this way. And so production day, post-production, distribution, those are 3 things that you're going to need when it comes to your media channels. This is your Facebook, YouTube, etc., etc. And all of that have budget elements in it. Your website has a budget element in it. Okay, what are those? It's the upkeep of your website. If you follow my process, the content that you create on production day and have post-produced, your social media manager that posts this on social media is also going to post it and distribute it onto your website. That's a process that needs to happen. But your website is not free. If you have a free website, I want to encourage you to create a vision for a website for your ministry. Your website is like your address on the internet. You can have social media, those are great, and that is a big, strong thing that we drive our ministry media clients onto. But for you to have a website for people to go to, get more information, and take action is crucial. And the free platforms are not always the best, because in most cases, you don't own your own domain, you don't own your own address, and you have very little control. The best solution is to have a hosting account with, for instance, HostGator and loading WordPress on it, and have it designed by a professional, okay? Please don't try and design it yourself. I've done that, right? And I wish I can show you what my website looked like when I started with Ministry Media Mastery, okay? It was bland, it was basic, and I'm glad that God has sent people and partners along my way that helped me to design the website that we've got today. And yes, over time, they have moved away a little bit more, and I've gotten more skills in terms of managing and designing stuff on the website. And so I am more involved than I was, but I'm not a designer. I'm a Canva designer. I'm not a graphic designer, right? And even though my graphics look okay, it's this specific task, your ministry's website, I want to encourage you, get a volunteer. Trust God to send you someone. Get a volunteer. And so what are the costs involved here? These are things that you have to consider when you budget. You have to budget the hosting, you have to budget the management of it, and you have to budget the management and maintenance, and then also the actual designing of the website. Okay. Email marketing, you get free email marketing platforms. For instance, MailChimp, you can have up to 2,000 emails, I think, for free. You can use Aweber for free for a month. And what are the costs involved here? Well, Aweber can cost you like 200 and something rand per month for modest amount of subscribers. So those are the costs involved, and that's what you have to consider when you develop these different media channels, strategies, and communication processes. I don't use email anymore. I use messenger platforms, and the reason I chose to do that, to make that shift, it's about, let's say, in May, April, May, we made a decision to scrap all email communication, and so the marketing, so what we've dealt with so far is we've dealt with consistency, and we dealt with content and consistency. And the third pillar that we teach is community. That's a big part of what we do. It's a big part of our values. And so to maintain this community, we've moved away from email because we've realized that, listen, our emails are not opened, or very little of them are opened. We are not getting the messages through. We're not getting pushed through for our content. And so we decided that we are going to start creating channels. So we've got a Telegram channel for this masterclass for the audience that's here. And so what's the maintenance on that? It doesn't cost me a thing, and I'm getting 70% open rates on the content that I'm sending there. Print materials, even though it's old school, still requires you to sometimes have that, especially when you're doing local crusades. That's still very, very powerful. And so obviously just work that into your budget. Audio and video production we've spoken about, and then events as well. So events is also, you have to plan that in a silo. You have to have a project for that and plan that separately. So involved in the events is obviously going to be the venue, the tech and media team, the equipment that you need to hire, the refreshments, etc., etc. And events is very, very, very expensive to run, to maintain, and to do regularly. That's why I chose to go online. And we do our events on Thursdays with our joint venture partners because it's just cheaper. It's just much cheaper. And our attendance is also better, and we can get into better, we can get a better kind of hit rate, if you will. Now, each one of these channels can help you to reach your ministry goals and objectives. And so it forms part of a bigger picture and a strategy, right? And so in our program, Ministry Media Mastery, we go through every single detail of that. But each of these channels can help you support those ministries. But again, every one of those things needs to be budgeted and planned for. And so I just want to pause there, and I want to say, please make sure that your channels that you are on is where your audience that God called you to is on. All right. And I just want to leave it there. When we do, let me tell you quickly, when we looked at our 4 pillars and we looked at consistency, we called a course that focuses on consistency and helps you with that, the content distribution blueprint. And one of the lessons in it is, what is your avatar? So in other words, where did your God call you to? And what are you going to, what channels do you need to be on to reach those people? Okay. And that specific process is in one of our courses. And it's actually, if you want to attend one of our training events that happens on Thursdays with our joint venture partners, let me know, and then I'll look you up, and you can go and have the experience. It's quite awesome. It has some of the elements of our master classes, but it's a very, very strong presentation and call. And there's a great offer that's being made there. And so let me know if you want to be part of that. And that specific offer that we're making is all of these things that I'm discussing is included in the process. And so you'll have a great outcome for that. So now let's look at the next topic. Excuse me. I'm doing things differently today, if you haven't seen, but we're being creative and we are doing our slides a different way today. So the next one, we're going to look at estimating costs. All right, and so when you're estimating costs, what you want to look at is there are different costs involved, and I've done a little bit of teaching on that already. And so it's just important that you are aware of the different kind of costs involved. And this is personnel, equipment, software, advertising, your content creation, everything that requires finances in your media process, that has to be budgeted for. And so you will work on two different things. You'll work on once-off costs, and you work on regular costs. Like some of the software that we need to use for our ministry, those are regular costs. And so we've projected them all the way into the future, that we know exactly every month, what is our minimum budget requirements, our funding requirements for our budgets. And that helps us to plan better. It helps us with our recruitment. It helps us with our sales forecasts and projections and our goals to make sure that we meet those. And so every channel can be used to support those ministry goals. But every one of these things need to be budgeted for. They need to be planned for. And again, I want to encourage you to go in as much detail as you possibly can. All right. If you're going to make coffee, and it's tiresome, I know, I hate these kind of things. I don't like these detailed administrative processes and budgets. But at the end of the day, it helps my ministry to grow. It helps me to be better because I can manage my finances better. Okay. And so every detail allocated and budgeted for. Now, I want to encourage you to research and estimate the costs involved with your media processes and channels. And again, I want to reiterate, there are a lot of hidden costs. When I went through this process of budgeting and having a proper budget, my eyes went open to things that we don't think about. And there are things that are called hidden costs. Like, for instance, your rent is a hidden cost for your ministry, right? We don't necessarily look at them as budget requirements or parts. Your computer, right? If you have a computer, then there was a cost involved in allocating it. You can split it over a couple months or whatever, but you're going to have to maintain it. So the IT company that does any work on your computer to maintain it, to update your software that you use, all of those things are kind of hidden costs that you're not always looking at, that you need to make sure that you allocate. And so next, let's talk about allocating resources. And so this is also very crucial in managing your media ministry. All right. And the concept of resource allocation is simple. It's basically what the word explains, is allocating the right resources to the right activities. So again, certain media activities is going to need certain funding, and so you will have a budget, right, that is either available, and then you say, okay, which of these activities that we have can we do with the budget that we've got? Or you can say, okay, I have a board, or I have a funding source, or I have a team that says, listen, tell us how much you need and we're going to find the money for you, which is great. And I pray with you that God sends you someone like that. And then that's why budgeting to the finest detail is important, because you cannot go back to your team and say, oops, this is the amount that we budgeted for, but we still need this, we still need this, we still need this. And that's the hidden costs that I spoke about, that you have to make sure that you are looking for. And so you allocate funds from your budget to your resources. So it's always good to look at the project and say, okay, this project, if we have our way, if we have no shortage of finances, and all of our media objectives are reached, this is what it's going to cost. And then you go to the funding team and say, okay, this is how much we need. And they can say, okay, we can allocate this budget to you. But then you're going to be kept accountable. You cannot go over the budget, right? They're not going to be available because that's going to be bad stewardship. So in this process, make sure that you do not spend a cent more on anything that you didn't allocate for. And so make sure that you allocate the right amount of financial resources to the projects that you need. And so there's a fine balance between allocated resources and expected outcomes. Okay, so if people are putting, and that is your board, if you have one, that is your team, that is your finance team, that is your funders, this is your tithers, your givers. They are going to ask you and keep you accountable to the outcomes for the resources that you have asked for or that you have placed in the budget. And so you got to make sure that you execute on what you asked for and use those finances wisely. And so I want to encourage you to distribute your budget among the various media channels, but do it based on the goals that you set, the cost estimates that you have allocated to it, and the objectives that you want. All right. And so how this works is, in my world, it's funny. My master classes like this one that I'm doing right now, this one is the biggest, I would say the biggest responsibility. I allocate the most resources to this specific class, right? Why do I do that? Well, it gives value to hundreds of ministries, right? It helps us to build our visibility. If you know my teachings in the 4 pillars, you'll see that when we talk about the pillar, the consistency pillar, one of the things that we teach is visibility equals credibility equals influence. And it is our call to help ministries get their message to the world. And how do we do that? We have to build influence. And so how much influence do you think we were able to build with a regular masterclass every Wednesday from May? 22 classes so far. And every class is high level, high energy, high engagement. And obviously, we are looking to do better. But think of that consistency. What has it created for our ministry? So that is our biggest ministry vehicle right now, right? And so what goes into that? Well, an hour of my time goes into that. And so that is budgeted for. The equipment that I'm using, right? That's required to do this class. Like for instance, StreamYard, right? StreamYard, we want the best possible option because it allows us to stream to multiple places. It allows us to have injections of media throughout the show at some time. It helps us to create custom and branding. Why? It is our strongest promotional vehicle, right? How much prep goes into preparing for this class? All of those things are budget hungry, right? And so that's our biggest resource allocation. That's where we put the most of our work. What's the outcome of that? The outcome of that is we have a following, we have people that over time, because of the trust that we build from the visibility, credibility, and influence, over time starts being more engaged and going deeper with us, and eventually makes a decision to work with us, right? And so 2 things happen from that. Either they go into our program or they joint venture with us and we do events together on a Thursday evening. And those Thursday evenings, that is where we have the outcomes, right? So we work strong on promotion and our content, and it's not just it's an intricate process. It's not just this masterclass. This masterclass has banners it needs to be designed to promote it, content that needs to be promoted to promote the entire process and the platform. It has countdown images that need to be done. So it's a huge integral operation of promotion, because that is our focus, because that gives us our outcomes, which is our relationships in joint ventures. And obviously, we also get ministries that book us, and we get speaking engagements and all those kind of things. So the promotional part, that's what I'm trying to explain here. Okay, I am distributing my budget and my effort towards this masterclass. Why? Because its goal is to promote our ministry and get us the rest of the things that we're looking for. And so a big part of our budget and time goes to this. Those things are easy. The challenge and the masterclass, the challenge and the cohort is easy because those stuff has already been created. But who knows about it? Very few. That's why we do the masterclasses. That's why we do talks. That's why we partner and joint venture with ministries. Then we have the promotional events on Thursdays, right? Do you see how? And let's say we can use the Pareto principle here. The Pareto principle is 20% of the efforts will give you 80% of the results. Okay, and so. And 80% of the things will give you 20% of the results. So let's say our conversion rate is 20%, right? 80% of my efforts is going to go towards getting that 20% conversion. All right, and I hope that that makes it a little bit clearer. I always like to explain things from my own context so that people understand better. And that way I can make it as real as possible. So next we're going to talk about setting priorities. Okay. And let's take from this process that I'm explaining here again. It's very important that I prioritize certain media initiatives. So again, I've got 4 media initiatives every week. That's outside of my filler content. If you want to understand that concept between pillar and filler content, go look at the masterclass playlist. It's available on the channel, right? On the YouTube channel or on the Telegram channel. There's a link and it goes to the playlist. Go look for the class on filler versus pillar content. So I'm not talking about my filler content. Between my filler content, which is my quote cards and my memes and my countdown images and everything that I share, right? What I'm doing is I'm prioritizing 4 different media initiatives. The one is the leadership class on Monday, which is still in infancy. The media masterclasses on Wednesday. I'm broadcasting and doing a cohort and a cohort on Wednesday nights. And then we have our promo events. It's a 2-hour training event that has a call to action at the end on Thursday. So those is my main media efforts or initiatives that I focus on every week. And here again, the consistency is important. So what I want you to do is I want you to look at those media projects that you have, and I want you to prioritize them, categorize them in priority, categorize them as high priority, medium priority, or low priority. So right now, of the media efforts of the ministry, the leadership class on Mondays has a low priority. Okay. And my master classes on Wednesday has the high priority. Medium priority right now is let's say the Thursday events, and then my Wednesday classes, the cohort, has low priority. Why? Because everything has already been set up. Everything has already been created. Those I can do in my sleep. I try and like present these classes. They can also kind of present in my sleep, but especially the cohorts I can do in my sleep because everything has already been created. Everything is already there. And so I want to stress the need to allocate a larger portion of the budget to high priority projects. So the the media effort that grows your ministry the most, or that's going to give you the best return on investment. That is where you allocate more of your budget, so that you can be more successful. And that is the focus of this class. I got to be honest with you. I had this topic on my roster for months, 3-4 months, and I was restrained to do this, but I've realized that this is a very important resource for ministries to have, and to know just the simple things that's necessary to make your media ministry successful. And eventually, this is a masterclass, and this is going to become part of our cohort, of our training, right? And I know it's not rocket science, and I know it's not financial accounting or forensic, but it has the simple elements that's going to make your ministry, your media ministry, extremely successful. So we're looking at the next one, and that is monitoring and adjusting. All right, and here I want to just talk about the importance of regularly monitoring your budget and your media initiatives. So obviously, you keep your account, you keep eyes on your account, right? My wife's keeping me accountable to this process, that we regularly sit and we say, okay, what did we spend money on? Are there any surprises? If there are surprises, do we need to be concerned about that? Can we get a refund if it wasn't authorized and if it's not necessary? Because sometimes you sign up for stuff and it goes off your account. Sometimes there's things that comes from a previous accounting regime, and it goes over. And go to that budget and look at it every single month. In fact, we do it, I think, every second week. We look at where did we spend fuel on, what was our groceries that we spent on for the ministry, what did we buy, what are the small things that adds up over time, like our hosting, like the hosting of our videos, like the hosting of our training platform, all of those things. Small things like banking costs. All of those things are regularly monitored, right? And so what you want to do is, in the beginning of the financial year, the budget is submitted, it gets approved, and then it gets maintained. And so you got to make sure that you keep your eye on the ball and make sure that things are not growing out of proportion or you're spending more than the budget that's been allocated. And the reason why is because over time, it can become a monster, right? And again, all the hidden things need to be allocated, right? And so keep your eye on it. Sometimes you'll have media projects that are seasonal. So production days, for instance, in our environment and language is something that should happen for us maximum every 3 months, right? And so there is obviously a big expenditures that happen. We might need to rent equipment. We might need to rent hire talent and team. We need processing done, and then we need management of that. We need a venue sometimes, etc., etc. So those are things, but those are things that you need to plan for. So it's not just plan the production day, it's plan the budget as well and put it into your forecasts and your projections and keep your eye on it every single month. So you can see that something's not getting out of control, something is not being spent that wasn't allocated for. And if it needs to be allocated, go to accountability partners like your board, like your spouse, your ministry partners, and say, listen, this thing I see is something we are paying or buying extra. It's not in the budget. Can we discuss making it part of the budget? So, and that way you keep yourself accountable and there's no surprises and difficult conversations going forward. But you need to be flexible. and need to have the ability to adjust the budget as circumstances change. Small things like, hey, maybe next month we start a radio ministry. It's not a lot of costs, but there are things that are involved. Like, for instance, the hosting of your stream. Like, for instance, the time that it takes to produce the show. Small things like that. And all those things have to be put into the budget. Sometimes you have an extra person in the office, which means you have extra refreshments, you have extra coffee you have to buy. So you have to adjust over time. And sometimes it gets more, sometimes it gets less, but you'll have an annual budget that you work for, and you're going to do that. So I want to encourage you to establish a system for tracking the expenses that you have and matching it according to efforts and outcomes, and saying, okay, that's going to happen. And so in my notes, I have this thing that I want to share with you, a case study, but I think that I've given you a lot of real life examples here. So I want to encourage you to, after this class, to go and look at your finances. I hate this conversation. I don't like it. I got to tell you, but I know it's like vegetables. It's not necessarily something that I like, but it's good for me. Okay. And having a better idea of what are my projections in terms of our ministry's income that we need, what are we spending money on? Let me give you a small example. Doing these exercises has given me the insight to say, okay, for our ministry, we have to work into our budget and our pricing so that we can grow. Otherwise, we are just going to always look at the daily bread. Remember, God has given us, giving us our daily bread, but He has also promised us super abundant, far over and above what we can ask or think. And so God is all about sustaining, but He wants us to prosper. And I really believe that if we have a better hold of our budget and our finances as ministries, especially when it comes to media, we will start prospering. And I'm not going to go into, listen, allocate in your budget saving for future equipment that you want to buy, saving for upgrading of your equipment, etc. We will always encourage you to have a growth plan, which is, I'm starting with my cell phone. Great. But let's have a vision that we want to eventually maybe buy a small DSLR to do our stuff with. We eventually want a studio with backlighting, and we want, props, and we want to grow. That's where we want to get to. So I want to encourage you to carefully go and look at your finances, look at every single line, and go and look at what does things cost, what can you cut out, what is my real picture, projected over time so that you're not living and managing your ministry month to month, but that you have a long-term vision that you say, for the next financial year, this is what this ministry is going to cost. When you have that amount, then the magic happens. Now we go to God, and maybe in the next class, next week, we're going to teach that what do we do with our finances. And I know a lot of you know this. I'm just going to share from our own lives. What do we do? And how do we approach the ministry needs that we have, and also our growth going forward? And I hope that will be helpful to you. So I want to just quickly end off with this. And here is maybe where you want to take a pen out, because I haven't written this out in a resource. Resources and tools. Okay. And so do you have a pen? Let's start. Budgeting tools and resources can greatly assist you in the process of creating and managing your budget for your ministry's media. And so some useful tools are using Excel or Google Sheets, right, These are spreadsheet programs that offer versatile budgeting templates that you can use, right? And also, if you didn't know about it, you can manage budgets through Excel and Google Sheets. I personally use Google Sheets because all my stuff is in the cloud. And in Google Sheets, you can allocate certain formulas to certain parts of your budget, and it really it can give you it can save you a lot of headaches. So you can there's lots of training, right? If you go to Excel themselves, right, their YouTube channel, they will show you how to do the different formulas, how to do the budgets, and probably give you templates as well. Then there's budgeting software that helps you, like QuickBooks, Quicken, and Mint. They can help you manage your finances, track your expenses, and create reports for your ministry's budget. Then there's financial management software, tools like Intuit's QuickBooks or Applos. They offer specialized solutions for churches and ministries. They often come with features tailored for nonprofits and accounting and budgeting needs. Then there are church management software like Planning Center, Church Community Builder, or Breeze, which gives you comprehensive solutions for ministry management, including budgeting and financial tracking features. Then nonprofit resources are there are resources from organizations like the National Association of Church Business Administration, or NACBA, or the Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability, ECFA, which are great places for you to reach out to just to see what resources they have, what training they have, and so on. Then there are online budgeting templates on various websites, like for instance, Smartsheets or Tiller Money. We can have dynamic templates designed for nonprofits and ministries. You can get consultants to help you. There are ministry networks that helps you with resources, etc. So if you're part of an oversight, it's always good to reach out and ask for what resources they use, do they have any available, and some of them might have packages that allow multiple ministries to be part of their package, and you can just piggyback off of them. All right. Then I want to share with you some software that I didn't mention. So I've got a list here, and I just want to share with you what I didn't mention. Maybe I'll just go over them again. Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets, I already shared. Quicken, I did. QuickBooks, Tiller Money. Smartsheets is a collaborative work management platform. Applos is a church management and accounting software with dedicated focus for non-profit organizations. Template.net offers a variety of budgeting templates for different purposes. There is the Nonprofit Technology Network, which offers budgeting samples for you. And then there's Mission Media U, provide training resources for ministries, including budgeting templates, etc. So I want to encourage you to explore these resources further and go and check them out. If you have any questions for me, it's good to post them right now. And I want to just thank you for joining this masterclass today. I had a lot of fun. This stuff is boring. It can be boring, but I think for me to actually teach it and explore it was great. I want to encourage you to take action. Start creating your media budgets and seek guidance if needed. Because if you have a handle on your budget, your ministry will start prospering. Okay. And I'm not just talking about the media department. I'm talking about all the other departments in your ministry. If you have a handle on your money and you know what's going on in your accounts, you know what's coming in, you know what's going out, everything has been approved and discussed. It's good to have accountability partners. You'll have a more prosperous ministry. If you like what you hear today and want to launch or improve your ministry media platform, learn the latest content creation techniques, build a media team, and increase the impact of your ministry, register for our Ministry Media Challenge. This carefully crafted challenge will provide you with a system, processes, and most of all, accountability structures to get your ministry media platform launched in as little as 12 weeks. This is a premium challenge where we'll take you from where you are to global influence and impact. Thank you so much for joining me this hour today. I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to extending this conversation next week where we are going to talk about I know what I need, how do I get it? And that conversation is very interesting. I love you. Thank you so much for being here. And I will see you again next week.